What's cracking, guys? Omar Isaf here with my co-host for Mama's Boys podcast, Silencio Michael, with a special introduction to this video. What you're about to see is the video version of our podcast that we started. We started in January. The concept behind the podcast was to give in-depth conversations with your favorite content creators, not just fitness professionals. It's not a fitness podcast.
So we got Brad Schoenfeld on this episode. We talked to many of your fitness people that you guys enjoy in the past because of their information, because of their knowledge, because of their lifting. Maybe some different people in the food industry, maybe the music industry.
Yep.
Some of just our friends who we enjoy having conversations with, and we're trying to let you guys know a little bit more about ourselves, a little bit more about them, make you giggle, make you cry,
make you gaggle,
whatever it might be. So with Brad, we talk jazz, we talk lifting, we talk keto.
We did.
The hot topic. And so we just have a good time getting to know different type of people. It's a little bit more casual for us ourselves, where we don't have a direct presentation we're trying to do. We're just trying to have a good time, meet people, and enjoy that or share that content with you guys.
Absolutely. And so the last thing I would say is we're doers. And so as soon as we had the concept for this podcast, we went with it. The equipment we had at first wasn't the best. And also I was learning, quite frankly, Mike, how to conduct myself on a podcast where we're talking a little bit over each other, because quite frankly, we have a great time and we're just excited. We fixed a lot of those issues. We listened to the feedback behind the podcast. And because we meet infrequently, every 6 weeks, what ends up happening, we have 6 weeks then to prepare, to improve. We bought these fancy new microphones, this guy right here. So people have been really enjoying the podcast. In fact, when we were just at the Arnold right now, people come up because of the YouTube content you guys see, but a good portion have already mentioned Mama's Boys, the podcast, the impact it has had, and the positivity. So I guess what I will say is, if you enjoy what you're about to see, this hour interview with Brad Schoenfeld, this conversation with him really more so, make sure to check out our podcast. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We upload episodes 2 times a week, every Tuesday and Friday. Normally there's one solo and then one guest podcast. We're really focusing on this, really trying to make this the next thing. We're both really passionate about this, so we're excited to have you watch this video.
Be sure to check it out. If you do enjoy it, we would love for you guys to leave us a subscription on iTunes, rating and review. It'll help us out a lot. We're really excited about this project.
Yeah, man.
Even our YouTubes may have suffered because of it, because we were very creative, as he said.
So focused. We're one mind.
We really are. So we're excited to get new guests, to expand, and just have fun talking with some of your guys' favorite influencers and creators.
Yeah, rating and review would help us out the most on iTunes. We'll link everything in the description. We also have a separate YouTube channel for the Mama's Boys podcast video version. But without further ado, if you like this, if you like the whole idea behind it, make sure to like the damn video and enjoy this podcast with none other than Brad Schoenfeld, aka Dr. Longshot.
Eat your vegetables.
Wait, this is a really good location.
Not bad.
Well,
Brad, after getting kicked out, I told him a little bit about what happened.
Which is an okay location as well.
We didn't know, we weren't. You're up north though from here, right? Or
up north. Yeah.
North, yeah.
About 45 minutes. I'm in Westchester County, which is the next, it's the next suburb.
Is it above Bronx?
So it really borders, Westchester County borders the Bronx.
Yeah, I think we headed up that way. We were at Mount Vernon Barbell.
Mount Vernon's the worst area of Westchester.
That's what somebody told us. So we walked.
We didn't know that. We were just walking. Yeah.
That's actually worse than the Bronx. Mount Vernon is the one place in Westchester you generally don't want to
walk.
That's amazing.
We had Ryan, so we didn't feel. Just look at Ryan. We had him.
Yeah, we grabbed lunch with some friends, and then they're like, we Ubered up there because we don't have a car, and they hopped in their truck. And they're like, well, you could get in the back of the truck. We're like, we'll just walk. We didn't know where the heck we are.
Yeah.
So we walked about 15 minutes down the street, and I'm looking around because all East Coast, my family's in Ohio. I know it's not East Coast, but it's kind of, I've been to Boston a bunch. Kind of the housing, no matter the neighborhood, kind of looks the same. Mm-hmm. It's all kind of brick. It's all kind of older, so you don't really know the neighborhood.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
But even like Brooklyn, like the actual the architecture, I guess is what I'm going for.
If you come further up into Westchester,
looks a little different.
Yeah, there's a lot of really affluent areas.
Yeah.
I'm 20 minutes north there. I'm on the Hudson, so I'm literally
on water's always going to be nice.
I'm 20 minutes from Mount Vernon. But Mount Vernon is
it's got some character.
Yeah, but we couldn't tell. We didn't see anybody on the street. I've walked around Boston and same thing. Like a lot of neighborhoods, you could go from very, very nice to not so nice. And sometimes it looks the exact same. Where I found like Los Angeles, you could just tell like, all right, Arnold Schwarzenegger could live here. All right, Suge Knight's living over here.
Now, let me ask you this. When you said you live there, have you always lived there? Like, what's your, because you have a little bit of an accent.
You
like
got some
to us,
hockey
but like,
gear
It
on.
sounds like a New York accent, but like, what's that? What is that
I
accent?
grew
Where do
up
you grow
in
up?
Westchester. So I grew up actually probably 10 minutes from Ever.
Okay.
In a nicer area, but I grew up in the southern part of Westchester. Now I'm in the northern part of Westchester. So I'm like 15 minutes from where I grew up, further north.
You have, so is, just for the record, Brad, Christopher Walken's not from New York at all, though.
I have no idea. Where
Because you are also known, I don't know if you know this,
have
Mike.
Said that. I thought you were the one who popularized it.
You think
I'm
looks?
not
You're
saying-
talking speech.
There's an inappropriate nickname that Brad has that I'm not going to say involves, I'm not going to get into it. Jack Christopher Walken's.
Is the one that's gonna stick.
Yeah. Brad, Long, something, and then Dr. Bronfeld. There's a lot of nicknames I've heard.
Like Long Dong.
I mean, that long is what I've heard.
The first time I ever was aware, someone texted me or emailed me a link to He said,
What did you think?
They go, do you ever see this guy? He's talking about you, just calling you Long Dong Show. And
I'm like, I'm here.
I went on, and at first I'm like, it's probably some joke or something. And I went on, I was like, that dude has talent. I was like, because not only was he doing that, but there was content. It's like one thing just to be a goofball.
Yeah.
Like you had content. So then I actually emailed him, and I
That's
said,
amazing. That was your first introduction to him?
That was my first introduction.
So I have a story
I
like
had
that.
no idea who it was.
We were, you know, Jamie Eason. She was on bodybuilding.com and stuff for a long time. So
She's a
Jamie,
figure competitor.
yeah, one of the OGs, kind of before everything was really cool and popular.
Oxygen magazine.
All that. Yeah. So Jamie got involved with Reebok. I do some work with Reebok. This is maybe 3 years ago.
I did.
Yeah. With like
Pete?
Reebok wanted all
Was
them.
it
Yeah.
Pete? Yeah, Reebok
I was like Pete's last sign before he left.
Yeah. He was a really good guy.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
his last name?
Bagnani?
Bagnani, right?
Yeah. So they had a great crew. Robertson, Mike was with
Robertson,
everybody.
Nick
Yeah.
Ciminello,
Oh, yeah.
I had some meetings with
Jack,
Nick and stuff.
David Jack.
T-Nation
Shout out to
days.
D-Jack, one of my favorite guys on the planet. We'll get him on here. Talk about somebody that could talk. He's literally like a fitness positive Jim Carrey. Like he'll change your life.
Really?
Yeah, he's amazing. So Jamie Eason, I think, was going through the list of maybe other teammates, things like that. And I had kind of a similar situation where it was a vlog of mine on the internet. And we're talking about masturbation, just being boys, joking around. And
Her first introduction
that was the
to you.
very first video she ever saw of me. Now she's a mom. Now she's like a legitimate source in this
Does
thing.
not have a high opinion.
And then, but I think she tried to giggle it off and then saw some of my other content and felt a little safer
Give
with
you a
what I
second.
actually do. Just happened to click on that one.
Gave you a second chance. I was going to say that for you, you saw the video. I remember I adapted it from a T-Nation article where I just thought to myself that it was 10 laws, I believe, of hypertrophy was the one that I adapted that video. There was like a whiteboard and stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm like, this guy's just going, you went in on the information, you kept it clear, concise, and actionable. You know, some people will give some advice that's like, yeah, it's kind of cool, it might be useful, but it's just kind of out there, like how do I implement it? This was very actionable, and then I started reading more and more stuff. Then, as you said, you communicated. Now, Jack Christopher Walken's is in the house on Mama's Boys. We're honored to have you on here. I have to say before we go on, you're one of the few people in the fitness industry I genuinely look up to because after all these years, after all the things you've done, all the accomplishments, all the research, your position as a professor, you have the ability, if you wanted to sell out hard, but you do your own damn thing. And you basically serve as one of the people in the fitness industry that calls out the charlatans, the bullshit. You kind of self-police it and make it better as a result. Like you're either through your Facebook posts or anything that you do, like the articles that you write, you're prolific. You just do a really good job. And I think it's thanks to you guys like you, your buddy Alan Aragon, Brett Contreras, that are just making the fitness industry better.
Thank you so much, Omar. And by the way, it's really nice to be here. You in New York at the Waldorf with your...
Oh, the Waldorf. Yeah, we have 3 suites or whatever.
I was impressed that you got the entire top floor.
Yeah, with all the butlers. Sorry, we didn't mean to make a scene.
Yeah.
Omar travels in style, just for everyone out there.
Oh, my God. But I was going to say, concerning that, just to dive into it a little bit, did you ever find it hard to stay true to yourself? Because you are what, like, just to highlight it, Brad. You know the industry. You know the people that are in it. The amount of people. It's like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. There's one person I'm sure you're aware that kind of doctored some research in the Southeast that was one of the good guys that basically one of the
good guys
because he now makes a lot of money. So what is it about you? Was it your upbringing? Was it growing up where you grew up, where you just always kind of stuck true to yourself? You could have chased the money and the fame. but you kind of just do your thing, put out fantastic research and killer information.
Yeah, I grew up in a medical family, so both my parents were physicians, and
Yeah.
I was taught the scientific method from the time I was yay high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, my whole upbringing was such that if you bastardize science, that's like the worst thing you could ever do. And to me, integrity in science, and as a person, like my own. I would never want to go to the grave saying that I made extra money by selling out. If that's what your goal in life is, then you're just a very shallow person. To me, my self-actualization is through creating a platform in the short time around the earth. And I would also say that the one thing I would never want to do is to disrespect my peers. Like if Alan Aragon or Brett Contreras would think of me as like some dude that sold out, that'd be the worst possible thing I could ever think of. Like
I think that's
no matter. I could have $1 billion and I would be unhappy in that. So.
Yeah, I think that's
100%.
amazing, and that's something that a lot of people don't think about. That either make content on audio, visual, written, whatever it might be. People don't think like, oh man, like my friends are reading this, or maybe my mom's watching this. Like, what is my mom gonna think? What is my friends gonna think? Like, same thing when I put up videos. I'm like, man, what will Omar think? Like, all right, he's cool with it. I'll bless her, or someone that I highly respect, like you or Alan, or someone like, man, what? Or my man David Jack, like, man, if they see this video, what are they gonna think? Obviously, Jamie Eason crept into the wrong video, but majority of the stuff, you're thinking like, all right, like, is this with who I am, and this is within my crew and my people, and I think that's kind of the fine line of what maybe the industry has gotten into is what people are finding fulfillment in. And these people maybe don't know, so all they go to is money or fame or the top store, the Waldorf.
And making money for money's sake is just not, it has no value really.
Yeah.
It's, you can only have, how many cars can you drive?
Yeah.
How many houses can you be?
Yeah.
So it's just, to me, it's kind of a bad pursuit. It's
a hollow
stupid
pursuit.
Yeah, it's hollow.
Where did your pursuit maybe start? And what age do you think you maybe found what drives you or finds fulfillment?
Yeah, because you had family of physicians. Like, how do they feel about you going into, like kind of sports science, getting that, your PhD in that?
Well, that's my actual journey was somewhat interesting because I started out in the medical field, but it was in ultrasound. I became an ultrasound technologist, and my dad was a physician, and we had a company that provided mobile ultrasound services.
That's
so
cool.
I studied cardiac ultrasound, abdominal, basically vascular ultrasound, and learned the ropes there. And then I ultimately went into, it was a business where we had other technicians, and it was a medical business that I ran.
How much school is that to become like an ultrasound?
It was so I went to college, graduated with a business degree, and then I went an extra year. It was a little over a year for ultrasound school, vocational.
Okay.
But I mean, it was a pretty intense year with physiology and it was, by the way, kind of as a side note, kind of interesting because I do a lot of ultrasound for muscle development now, and it was turned out that it helped me out in that respect. But my interest in fitness didn't really grow until a few years after I graduated college, and I was really unhappy with my physique and found fitness, and it just really changed my life. And other people started noticing and asking me to train them. First of all, they said, what are you doing? And hey, can you help me? And it just kind of gravitated. And I realized that was really my passion and moved out of the ultrasound. Long story short, I went into open up my own training facility, which I owned for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What were the parents' thoughts on that? Or was there some
they
judgment
were not
going?
happy. Yeah, they were not happy. They first of all, they didn't understand that I was opening up a niche one-on-one facility, and they're like, "How are you opening up a gym? You're going to compete against Bally's." And
and you said, "Take a look at these pythons."
Yeah,
That's not going to compete.
I flexed and I said, "Don't worry."
Yeah, you flexed on the parents.
Got this, moms.
But I told them, look, this is my passion, and they weren't happy, but my parents fortunately were very accepting as long as I was doing something that was noble. They didn't think it was a bad pursuit. They just thought I was stupid.
Yeah, making a mistake maybe.
But that's fascinating how it's ingrained in you by your parents. Basically, we said a noble pursuit of the scientific method, not selling out. A quick aside, kind of for myself and Mike. We have a story. We won't name the individual, but someone was talking with us, and they're saying, "Brad, what do you guys want out of life, right?" And I said, "Oh, I want to do what I love, what I enjoy, hopefully help people, like speaking in broad terms." And the person said, "The sole function of anyone in a capitalist society is to maximize personal wealth." Is what the person said, without missing a beat. And I just looked at Mike. I'm like, what? Like, that's it? I'm not interested in that, bro.
Yeah, it's just a hard line of all of it, right? Finding fulfillment or success or whatever. Like, it's such a spectrum, and all of us humans are just wired so differently, whether it's upbringing or who knows what. Everyone just, and that's just more apparent. The industry is so weird right now with the amount of people in it, the type of people in it, and whatever their outside goals seem to be and whatever their true goals seem to be are skewed up.
I have no issue with someone, whatever someone wants to do is fine. But where I have an issue is when other people try to impose their goals on other people as if everyone should be having these same goals, as you said, which is just silly. I can say personally, I think it is, as Omar, I think the word hollow is very appropriate, that it is a hollow pursuit, and that I just would never do it, but if that's what someone wants to maximize their money,
let them happen, right?
Yeah,
that's the best thing Louis Simmons ever said.
What did he say?
He's like, "Who are you to judge?" Who are you to judge me, and who am I to judge you? Like, I feel very similar. And Omar and I talk about this a lot because I think there's a very niche people, obviously, of what you do. You know, maybe a handful of people that really stay true to the science and are really pioneers on what's coming, and maybe not change your opinions, but you're willing to admit when you're wrong and willing to admit what's new or what's happening. And then we find our spot trying to take what you guys do and break it down, adapt it into what we teach and how we lift. And then there's a whole bunch of other people that I don't even know what they're doing.
It's like 99.1 brand. And I guess that's maybe a question for us because you've been in the fitness industry a lot longer than us. And so we see this, we see social media and we're like, oh man, here's all these people they're selling, like fit teas or this or that. And
which I do enjoy on a nice Saturday night.
On occasion. But it's like, so here's the question to us. Has this always been the case? The industry, has it gotten better in your opinion? Has it gotten worse? Because we step into it, Brad, and we're like, man, this is a shit show. Is what we think, but it's like, was it better before or did social media make it worse?
No, I think it's better, but it's kind of both, better and worse at the same time. So before, I think there just wasn't really any evidence-based fitness because we didn't have a way to promote it. So we had researchers who disseminated research, and it was in just a very small set, mostly with like strength coaches and some other people, but even that to a lesser degree. And certainly personal trainers got very little of it. They'd attend some conferences. Generally, the personal trainers didn't understand the researchers at the conferences anyway, and the researchers would be up here talking down to them and didn't really respect them. The internet has given people like myself and Alan and Brett and others, Eric Helms, who I know, platforms to disseminate information and has allowed a lot of people the ability to learn. And I think we've reached a lot of people. But I think the alternative has reached even more. Like, so really now the bro science. And I also want to say that bro science is just, it's not necessarily bad in the sense it's just not based on anything. It can be bad, it can be good.
Right.
Because a lot of, when we talk about bro science, depending on your definition, it's what people just believe in the gym, and ultimately that's a testable hypothesis. A lot of my hypotheses are based on bro science, and we're testing whether that actually does eating tilapia thin the skin. We're going to test that.
Mike needs to know. He's trying to get shredded, right? This is why we brought you on.
I got rhino skin.
Haven't done the test on that one yet. So.
Not quite yet. But and that's what I was going to say. I guess we all in ways have a similar mindset where like Mike made a video recently, I think it was called I See You, just talking about, so on YouTube in general, there's the clickbait, right, where you'll put a title. And to be fair, to give an example, there's that dude Jeff Nippard where he had a little bit of clickbait and he in one video and he got a lot of dislikes, but then he showed if he had the clickbait as a title, how many views the video got. And then if he changed it to something more appropriate, how it dropped dramatically. So it's almost like the medium then becomes the message, where on social media, so on Instagram, if you post, like the X and the check mark, like you think you're doing this wrong, well, change it this way. You want one crazy tip to lose weight, do this. Where it's almost like we're appealing to the lowest common denominator, to just like our base psychology.
You're following trends.
Or our
hopping on the train. Yeah.
But so you're saying I need to hire Jeff Nippard to do my titles?
Just all the titles of your... Well, actually, you're probably the king of the original great website. Do you know what his website's called? lookgreatnaked.com.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a YouTube. I told you there's a kid that has a YouTube channel. I'll tell you that like 2 years ago.
Same name, yeah.
No, look good naked. And Brad said a line. This guy he said, "Why look good naked when you can look great naked?"
I deal in superlative.
Yeah, that's how I deal in it. Do you ever what was it for you where you decided for yourself self-policing would be useful? So for ourselves, like we made a video recently where we talked about, quite frankly, on YouTube, Brad, a lot of fake naturals, like people that are enhanced, they claim that they're not. It's an epidemic in the fitness community. What made you say, you know what? I'm gonna start talking. Not only do the research, put out good information, but basically call out shit I don't like.
So I'll give a big shout out to a mentor of mine named Mel Siff. I don't know if you're
Super Training.
Super Training.
Yeah, I read that book, blew my head.
So back, I'll date myself a little, but back in 1999, Mel started a Super Training. It was like kind of like a Facebook. Back then it was like these little groups, and he started his own thread. And you'd have threads, kind of like Facebook threads. They were a lot less sophisticated back then. But Mel was the original gangster. He was an OG.
I love it.
Yeah, he was.
And he basically took down people. I remember some battles he had with Paul Chek, who you might know.
Yeah.
And some other people in the industry who he felt were not putting out scientific information. They were
pseudoscience almost.
Bastardizing science. And he would go after them and challenge them. And it stuck out to me. And at that time, I was an up-and-coming practitioner, not even a scientist as yet. But Mel unfortunately passed away, I think in 2003 or 4.
Sounds about right.
It was very tragic. He was a young guy. He was in his 50s. And I always had said that this is something that a pursuit just impressed me and something I wanted to do. And it's taken hold. And then also in collaboration with the guys, and talking with Alan, when I became friends with Alan and Brett back around 2010 or so, we were all kind of in that same boat and talking about it and discussing how we can improve the industry. And really, I think that's where we've gone.
Yeah, it's such a niche of a niche of a niche because like you mentioned before, whatever it might be, 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, there's such a gap between researchers who have zero application in the gym and then these strength coaches who are just meatheads trying to apply things, but more bro science or whatever it might be. You guys literally close that gap. You built the Golden Gate Bridge between
100%.
because you guys practice yourself. You practice in the gym. You're obviously jacked. All those other guys lift and they're into it. Plus, they train people on the floor in a gym for years. And now they're doing the research. You literally created a genre. Basically.
Well,
a missing hole.
Here's the cool thing. Like for me, virtually all, or certainly the vast majority of the research that I carry out is based on things that came to me as a personal trainer. I started making lists of things that I thought needed to be studied, but it was appalling to me, or certainly it was amazing to me that we had so little research on topics that you'd think that we just know these. I'd read stuff in books and they'd be giving, this is your hypertrophy range. And you'd assume, it was said by the
3 sets of 10
or whatever, right?
It must be true.
It has to be true. And you start looking at the actual research that it's based on and it's like, well, that really doesn't make sense. It's not It's not based on any hard research. It's based on extrapolations of stuff that really may or may not be the case. And it turned out not to be the case.
Were you always a kind of an inquisitive child? Where you said, and those thoughts like have struck, like why is this so? Like why is this generally accepted thing a thing? Is it even true? Was that just something from you, like growing up as a kid, or curious kid?
I was definitely an inquisitive kid, and I was always challenging things and authority.
Were you a little bit
sometimes
of a troublemaker?
Yes.
Okay. Any run-ins with the law or anything like that?
We'll
just leave that. Yeah, pass those questions. So,
anything that had been would be expunged by now.
Fair.
I can just deny, and it would never have happened.
There you go. It's like I can travel. What you should know, Omar, I can now travel anywhere I want within the 3 local states, not outside of those, however.
Contiguous. Yes.
I'll look down at your ankle. There's an ankle bracelet. I'm like, I'm just
stuck in the lab.
Yeah, things are starting.
For the record, I do not have an ankle.
No, so let me ask you this then, because something a shared interest, just to kind of hop to something else, and then we'll hop back to talking about self-policing. But music, I saw a piece. So I'm a hater, Brad. I can fully admit that. Just as a person, I'm critical of myself, but also of others, where I listen to something or as someone puts out a piece of work. It could be movies, anything. But anyways, I was going to say music. Mike plays some instruments, went to an art school, Waldorf. My brother is a musician. I'm passionate about music. I saw you play some jazz piano on Facebook, and a lot of people that play music on Facebook, I'm like, dude, just stop. Just like, you'll see this on Instagram, Brad. People will like sing.
Every Fitzco girl's a singer now.
Every fit girl kind of like wants to be like the next Mariah Carey.
I don't even know.
Anyways, you played some piano, some jazz chops, and you got some chops. So give me this story about music, because you're north of Harlem, but like jazz, not the birthplace, but where Parker, bebop, all that stuff. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, so I actually started playing music. My parents were very cultured. They were both, like I said, physicians, and they would take me to ballets and operas and concerts. So they got me playing classical music from the time I was about 8 or 9, and I didn't really groove to classical music.
Yeah.
And my teacher would say that you're making up your own Beethoven, and like I would learn it by ear. I would learn it instead of trying to read the music. And as time went on, I kind of said, I don't want to play classical music anymore.
Yeah.
I want to play rock, basically.
Yep.
Got into rock. And
Brad, what were the rock bands? Out of curiosity,
I was into a lot of Southern rock, like Allman Brothers.
Okay, yeah. Little Leonard Skinner, yeah.
And
Freebird.
Billy Joel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Elton John.
Hey, hold on. Let's settle I'm going to give you some. You got to pick some for debates. Billy Joel or Elton John. I got my pick. Who would you pick between the two?
I'll go Elton John.
Elton, yeah.
I'm probably going
Goodbye,
with
Yellow
John.
Brick Road. You know the song "Funeral for a Friend."
Of course I do.
Love Lies Bleeding. Oh yeah, that's the
I
one.
know the whole Elton John catalog, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the what is it? Captain Fantastic and the Brown
One of
Dirt
the best,
Cowboy.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So you got into rock. Go on.
Yeah, and from there, rock is limiting for those who are
Self-expression.
not
when you
yeah,
want-
I mean, it's rock's a great. still love rock, but as far as musically, it's limiting as far as the chord structures.
Yeah.
And I started getting into some jazz. Little by little, I first kind of got into smooth jazz.
Yeah.
Stuff like Jeff Lorber, fusion. Or you
Yeah.
might not know or might. And then from there, I started getting into more hardcore, like Miles Davis.
Yeah.
Bill Evans, and a lot of really cool jazz.
Yeah.
Was it all by ear again? So you just pick up a record and try to start to jam?
Well, but I studied at the conservatory. So by the time I
I
was
didn't know that.
16, I went to the conservatory, Westchester Conservatory of Music here.
Yeah.
And studied with, after that, with a lot of really big-time jazz people.
Very cool.
I mean, people that are at the top of the field, that
Yeah.
are actually people would know, like Armin Donnellian, who was a Chick Corea protege.
Bro, Chick Corea's Electric Band is my jam. Him and John Patitucci, the bass.
course.
Yeah, how he like lives in New York. I actually wanted to communicate with him and try and get him on the podcast. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I studied with a lot of very high-level pianists over the years. I've still taken lessons off and on. Like I don't have time now, but it's something I still have a grand piano at home.
Yeah.
I have an electric piano, and
Very
it's
cool.
something that, to me, at this point, it's not obviously a vocation. It's not something I do for money. And by the way, I played in tons of bands. Over
That's,
Oh, really?
that's where I was going to
Yeah.
go. Was there
Yeah.
performance and things?
Oh, yeah.
Was it, you're on it?
I played in rock bands from the time I was, 15, 16 years old.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
then I got into jazz. We had small jazz groups. And by the way, I'll give a shout out to a colleague of mine and a good friend, Gil Paris, who I don't know if you know, but he's a local guitar player. He plays with Bernie Williams, who you
Okay.
also might know
Yeah.
as a former Yankee. He was he's now a guitarist, but he was a former outfielder for the Yankees.
That's cool.
Very popular player. And he won, he didn't win, but he's got nominated for like 10 Grammys.
That's amazing.
He's a really great jazz player, but also rock.
Almost
Anyway,
like fusion.
Yeah.
so I played on some of his early takes.
That's
some of his
awesome.
early
That's
demos and
awesome, dude.
stuff.
You
Yeah.
guys do like just some open mics, some bars around town, mostly just jam together?
Yeah, well, for when I played with rock clubs, it was mostly local rock
Cool.
clubs, and we did some of the ones here, like in Greenwich Village.
Yeah.
It was the Bitter End back when I was doing that in my 20s. So
That's fun.
yeah, it's been a good ride, and now it's just a nice source of enjoyment. Where when I spent eight hours reading PubMed, and then
Yeah,
I could
Just unwind.
chill for a half hour or 45 minutes playing piano. It's cool.
I'm seeing all these connections here because Alan was in a metal band.
Was he?
I know. Yeah,
That's
he
amazing.
sang. He also
Alan's
did
a
some.
good singer.
Yeah,
Really?
That's the part. Like you should listen to Brad's playing because
Yeah.
again, I've heard so many people, and I'm very critical.
Yeah.
Like they'll just post something. You played. I forget. By ear, I couldn't tell what piece it was. Was it Bill Evans or?
I mean, it was my own. It might have been like
Your own
My Funny
composition.
Valentine.
Okay.
I don't know what's.
And your own interpretation
Yeah,
of it.
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, some serious chops. I want to ask you, just talking about jazz piano, because I play some jazz piano myself. who are some of your favorite jazz pianists? Because I got a few.
Bill Evans is top.
Yeah.
Keith Jarrett is another incredible influence. McCoy Tyner, a great pianist. I mean, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock. I've kind of begged and borrowed. But other ones, actually, I also have a lot of roots with the blues. Dr. John is someone who I've done a lot of studying with. Not with, but of his material. He had courses. So it's kind of New Orleans jazz, boogie piano, which I got really into.
Yeah, well, you said you were a fan of Elton John, and like he totally was heavily inspired by all that.
Yeah, Elton is just, to me, as far as rock piano goes.
The rock pianist.
Yeah, he's the man.
I love Billy Joel too, but Elton is to me the.
You made the right choice, bro. I feel come on, Honky Chateau. Are you kidding me? He has so many albums. I was gonna say just that quickly to talk on jazz piano for a minute. I would probably say Art Tatum would be my pick. I'm also Canadian. Oscar Peterson. You know, he's
those are technique guys. So I got. Yeah, Art Tatum is probably the best technique pianist to ever live.
I didn't know he was blind, apparently, or like did not have good vision. Which for how and that actually kind of makes sense, probably with the style, how he's shifts through the keys. It's easier probably if you can't see that way, but incredible.
Yeah, he and Oscar, Fats Waller was another guy back in that day that were just incredible, technically gifted pianists. I'm again more into kind of modal stuff. And, not only modal, but just more cool jazz.
Yeah, vibe and groove.
More, where Tatum is just, I think part of it with Tatum, he just is beyond what I can comprehend. Like, whereas, I'm more of a feel player and trying to get into a mood.
Yeah, that's kind of what I grew up. I was pretty lucky. Music school I went to, or art school in general, they force you to play a stringed instrument from second grade to fourth grade. So I played the cello, and then from there, if you get the option to go to a wind instrument or stay with the instrument you had, I played the trumpet for 3 years, and that's when I found drums and percussion. And I was super lucky that our orchestra teacher there was more into jazz than he was these other things. So once he even
the dude that played bass,
Harley White Jr. is his name. His dad was a little bit more well known than him. He's really well known in our local scene in Sacramento, but he's been on some albums here and there. He's really more that creative vibe guy, even though he has the technical skill. And so that's kind of how I was taught, where my chops are very mediocre on the drums because I never had a lot of formal lessons. But my groove, my timing, that's why I can like dance a little bit, just kind of the feel of
Have you seen his moves online at all? His dancing?
Dance moves?
That's all I got.
That's all I got. Pleasure.
Yeah, that's all I got. Because
what Mike's trying to say before he goes on is, Brad, after this, we're forming a band.
I'm down.
Okay,
I'm
in
it. Who's gonna sing? I can't sing much. All right, do it. Yeah, I can't sing, but I can groove a little bit. And he taught us in such an informal way. It was amazing, where he literally took us through the history of music without us knowing. I'm in 5th grade, when you tell a kid, hey, we're going to learn music history, you're like checked out. So instead, he just like starts to teach us a little bit of jazz. Then he starts to teach us a little bit of rock and roll. Then he starts to teach us a little bit of ska. And he starts to teach us some of these things. And so he taught us for almost 10 years. He ended up leaving our school, but we followed him wherever he went. And he would teach us after school. And you learn all these progressions. Like what 12-year-old kid knows the name of Herbie Hancock in the 2000s, And I'm just sitting there like playing Herbie Hancock Chameleon with him. I'm like, all right, amazing.
Yeah, that it's deadly. The that album, Miles Davis, just Bitches Brew. When you consider the personnel that were on it, where you said Herbie Hancock was on it, I think Chick Corea was also may have been on it. Like it's right around that time before he started doing Return to Forever. With all that stuff, just incredible sometimes how the perfect mixture comes together of musicians. You mentioned that about yourself being on like some early demo tapes. Like you just never know who you might run into.
And everyone starts somewhere, right? And so you root out, or even just the fact that you and Alan Aragon and Eric, all these guys are at the top and you're friends. It's almost the same kind of thing where why do these people gravitate to each other? Maybe it is the material and the genre itself, or maybe there's something deeper which wraps us around.
Brad, the secret you heard about the law of attraction.
Or just that we're all similar-minded and find the same fulfillment in things and the same interest on hobbies or real life, and then that's why you end up in a room together.
I mean, so you see what other people are doing, and if you like their stuff, you reach out to them, and that's basically the way I got in touch. Well, Brett got in touch with me, and Alan did too, but I mean, there's certainly a bunch of other people where I've reached out to, and who I thought, hey, they're putting out really good stuff, and I would either send them an email or message and say, hey, that's great stuff, and retweet it or put it again on Facebook, share it on Facebook. So.
And let me ask you this: do you find that music has helped you in other aspects of your life? Would you say that's kind of so outside of you have your career, right? That you've been working on. I see obviously you're a sports fan, which we'll get into. But for music, would you say that's your main passion outside of your career?
Yeah, well, music is one. I do. I'm a big martial arts, so I'm now studying Krav Maga. So
really? Wow.
Yeah, I studied martial arts for many years. I had stopped in 2010, 2009 when I started my PhD, and then didn't get back to it until fairly recently. But I've studied a bunch of styles, and it's just something that I like the physicality of it and the knowing that you can, certainly not acting upon it, but knowing that you
Kick
can,
some ass.
Yeah, that you can handle it. Right. If something
Yeah.
happens, it makes you more confident in yourself. And I've studied now on and off since 1995.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you know what my sensei's name was. So my parents thought it would be a good idea to take me into
Young
martial arts.
ADD Omar.
Young
needed
ADD, just
some-
like ready.
needed
It's
some
like,
discipline.
need to do something. We're gonna take Brad after and go to Mount Vernon, and he's gonna help us clean it up. Just like some people just see some like unruly people.
I'll be the mouth. I'll do it. You guys back me up.
So I was going to say, this should indicate the level of discipline, how rigorous the martial arts school I went to was. It was public, how do you say, like extracurricular activities. It was free.
Yeah, rec
Canadian,
or whatever.
Yeah,
Oh, we don't
Canadian
have free
initiative.
stuff, but yeah, we have the similar things down here.
So we had it anyways. I took it for 8 years, Brad. The guy's name, the sensei's name, Sensei Rick. Which should tell you, like you're expecting like maybe like an Asian name.
Hiroshu.
Like this, came all the way from Tokyo, like had like 8 generations back. Sensei Rick
learned
was my
under the
guy.
Gracies, something.
It actually reminded me, like we did the katas and stuff. It was the hop keto. We did do some stuff.
Someone say keto?
Someone said keto diet.
Someone say
keto
intermittent
diet?
fasting?
We're gonna need a public statement here, Brad, on your page. But yeah, it was funny because it reminded me more. You ever watch Ultimate Fighter?
Oh yeah.
So like do you ever watch like Ultimate Fighter 1, like Hoist Gracie, like when it was just basic guys brawling? That was more the karate. I felt like just a hop kid because we would spar at the end of the year, and I felt like it was just like something straight out of the Karate Kid. There was no finesse, no technique, no discipline, no 20 years of training.
Sock'em robot.
Yeah. No, I remember one time I flew out. We're doing kicks. And I flew a kick. We each had a jock strap on, and the thing just like flew like out of my leg like 40 feet, and like I actually said they caught it and then threw it to my dad. But that's it. Like it was loose. It was hard on the streets of Toronto, Brad, in the 90s. Is what I'm trying to say.
Jockstrap issues.
But music. So people talk about music or the arts in general. Where I think I've heard that fiction books can help develop empathy. Do you feel that? In your quest to be, just a better person, find more fulfillment, or staying true to yourself, has music influenced you in any way as a person besides just, giving you some enjoyment?
Yeah, I think having a creative side really gives you, first of all, music, as I mentioned, allows you to relax. It's a technique that I've used to relax, kind of like meditation. But I think a creative side also expands on your mind, which I think is, to me, the mind obviously is the most complex part of the human body. And I think it does seep over into other aspects, and it gives you certain ways of thinking. First of all, music has a lot of mathematical aspects to it in terms of how
100%.
How the scales are created, et cetera. And anyway, not to get too much into that aspect, but I do think that they are intertwined, and that it does it perpetuates your ability in other areas,
especially
science.
Yeah, especially playing it opposed to, like you just said, musical theory or musical history, actually playing something or the mastery of it.
Practicing the craft.
It's like anything else, right? Once you're confident or fluent in something, sports, karate, whatever, then actually using that is when the creativeness actually starts. Like playing music for the first 5 years kind of sucks. Like it sounds bad.
Unless you're my brother.
Yeah,
like unless you're some people just have that, which I
don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like no matter what, there's always a learning curve. Like I was naturally really athletic, but
it's kind of like the first few weeks of lifting.
Yeah. But like shooting,
sore, your one arm's going this way, the other one's going this way.
everything hurts for no reason. You're like, I'm supposed supposed to feel better.
I remember walking out after the first 30 minutes because there's my first training session in a gym at the University of Windsor. There was the volleyball team, Brad. Not even the football team, not the basketball team, the volleyball team.
Women's volleyball team?
I didn't want to say genders, but this team was busting out just like pull-ups. Like it was a team training and everyone was going hard. And I remember to do a pull-up because I'm like, oh yeah, like back training, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll try a little bit. I've done a pull down. And so I remember jumping up and everyone was around and the volleyball team was just doing pull-ups. I did like one and I struggled to do one. And I was just like, and then I tried to do another one, hung down, and I like just held it for a second, deciding what I was going to do, dropped, and then I'm like, oh, I'm getting out of here.
Straight home.
Yeah, I was like, I'm getting out of here. Yeah, it was rough.
Now, knowing you, Omar, I would have thought that maybe your first exposure would have been with the Swedish bikini team.
Oh, if only, still waiting. We all can't be as fortunate as Brett, where he decided on the niche, which is just training like beautiful women to develop better butts. Like
what do you do for a living?
I can tell you this: he clearly, as a personal trainer, knew what he wanted to do. And I can say honestly for myself, when I was personal training, over time you develop who you want to train. But I'm like, between guys and girls, I'm like, I'll train women like 100%.
That was the goal?
Well, not only that, like I think there was an economic incentive. And Brad, you can either back me up or say you're completely wrong, like in my anecdotal experience. And that is that women, when it comes to training, are more invested. I think guys have egos. They think to themselves, like, even unless they're like, even CEO types them, I'll be like, yeah, kid, I'll pay you like 5 sessions a week. Just tell me what to do. And I'll be like, all right, so here's the program. Here's what I want you to do. Say, oh, cool. It's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'll do like some bicep curls.
I would
instead.
say I would agree, but I wouldn't use the word invested. I would use the word coachable, maybe.
Or coachable,
because I think plenty of guys are super invested when they're into sports, or like you even said, you want to get into it because you weren't happy with your physique, and a lot of insecurities can drive a lot of guys to a far place.
Yeah, I'll take it even further. I think that women are more open to learning about it. Where I think a lot of guys, it's a macho thing, and it's like, I can go lift some weights, and you don't need advice. Certainly not everyone. Overgeneralizing here, but
of course.
But I think, and I think that's borne out by the stats that the personal training clients tend to be high. Women tend to make up more personal training clients because they're much more amenable to being shown things. They don't have that macho ego that's getting in the way.
It kind of goes to the old stereotype of guys aren't asking for directions.
Right.
A lady will ask like, hey, how do I get to 53rd or whatever? Guys are like, I got it. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Now we need a public statement, Brad, because I don't know if you know this, but keto's the latest craze. It's the latest, greatest craze going on here.
It is kind of hot.
It's hot right now. And
what's the science tell us?
I've heard things that if I can't lose weight, the only thing that I should be doing is blocking out completely carbs. Forget low carb.
Insulin's messing me up.
Keto, bro, is the answer. And I should tell you this. So this is a quick aside. We were invited to Google yesterday. Someone that works at Google, like, is a fan of ours, said, hey. And so we got a cool tour down for the South here in Manhattan. It was very nice. But I saw one dude, and I guarantee, Brad, like, these are, if they were to take, let's say, either IQ tests or whatnot, they're pretty smart guys for the most part.
Google,
guys and gals, right? This dude had on his plate, so they have like restaurants in there, all that stuff, right? And so
they like 7 full restaurants.
Yeah, we could eat, Brad, you can eat whatever you want, and it's delicious.
Yeah,
dude.
it was.
Okay. This guy, you know what he had, Brad, on his plate? I'm like, keto for sure. Cheese, meat, and then some deli meat. That was it. Like, he had a plate, and it was just a plate of meat.
Can't be too hard keto because that cheese is gonna have some carbs.
You're gonna have some carbs.
I feel like keto was very niche, popular about 5 years ago, but now keto is very pop.
What's going on
right now?
Brad,
you know, like
on?
Oprah's talking about it.
I am here to break some new ground here.
Hit us.
To shed some light. This might hurt some people, but there is no such thing as the insulin fairy.
There's no insulin fairy.
No.
That's not what my mom said.
And you know what? I want to break some more ground. There's no Easter Bunny either, and Santa Claus.
I hope we don't have young listeners. I'm going to go cry.
We're going to put spoilers for this podcast. So just break this down.
Hide the children.
Hide the women, hide the children. Tell me about this ketosis, ketogenic diets. Why do you think they're popular? What is it about?
And how and who should apply them? Because maybe they're not useless.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'll start off by saying I know some people have labeled me, especially certain keto advocates, as like
keto warriors, let's call them.
Keto zealots, as the anti-keto guy, which I have no issue with the keto diet when used. So it depends upon who it's being used by. I certainly don't recommend it for athletes, especially anaerobic athletes involved in most team sports, etc.
What about some long distance stuff? I know some people are into it. Maybe not marathon, but some endurance type stuff.
The evidence that I've seen, now that gets a little outside of where I've explored, in terms of the evidence.
Can we give it a maybe?
No, I've looked at the evidence, but I know there's other. I haven't looked at it as in depth because it's just not my long distance sports are not my game.
Yeah, you're not interested in it.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to get jacked.
Yeah.
I don't want to run 100 miles.
I have a cardio sucks. So.
We have cars and Ubers now.
My man.
So I'm more team sport oriented. The sports I'm more involved in are basic team sports, hockey.
Yeah. More explosive stuff.
But as far as distance, the evidence that I have seen basically shows it's probably not the greatest. I know there is some conflicting evidence that maybe ultra marathons, whatever the heck that really is.
150 miles?
When you take out your toenails just so you can be even lighter.
There is something. I was listening to some lady who won the race, and it's a unisex sport. I don't know if unisex is even the right term, but both people compete. All types of people compete, and it is like 200 miles, and it's a 5-day race, and she completed it in like 3.5. The next person didn't finish within 12 hours of this lady, and she's like 30 years old or something. And I think it was Joe Rogan interviewing her, and he's a little bit keto into it. And he's like, "What are you eating?" She's like, "Well, like beer, nachos." And I'm just sitting there like, "Fuck yeah, you are!" Like calories are gonna make you run 200 miles, not fucking lard.
Yeah. And look, for any type of athletic endeavor, glycogen is an important fuel source. So could there be instances where somehow your ability to utilize fat to a greater extent overrides that? I guess it's possible. I don't think the evidence has been shown well based on what I've seen. Certainly not with more explosive sports. But to get back to your question, I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with keto for the average person if they can stick to the diet. So number one, first and foremost, the most important thing in any diet is adherence. Yeah. So I can give someone the best diet in the world in terms of this is the perfect one for your genotype. If they're not going to stick with it, it doesn't matter. Why is it popular? Because it's easy. It does two things. Number one, it cuts out an entire food group, which if you're going to willing to stick with it, makes it hard to get in a lot of calories. Sure. That's number one. And number two, there is some good evidence that ketosis itself does suppress hunger. And that's over and above higher protein intakes, which often accompany ketogenic diets. So what I would say is it does have benefits in that respect from a free living population, that if you're going to give them a platform to eat whatever they want, but just cut out an entire food group where they can't eat a lot, and then also suppress their hunger so they don't want to eat a lot, it can have success in terms of losing weight and not putting on weight. That said, it does come down to total calories, because the reason they're losing weight isn't because of the keto. Any magic to the insulin fairy or to all deference to the children out there.
Hormones or whatever.
Right, and ketosis itself, like ketosis is some metabolically active format to facilitate greater weight loss. It's just not been shown. And actually the opposite's been shown, that when total calories and total protein intake, because protein, the other important thing to realize is that protein itself is thermogenically, there's something called diet-induced thermogenesis. So it's thermogenically efficient, meaning that you will, every time you eat protein, you burn somewhere between 25 to 30% of the calories from the protein off. So if you take in 100 calories of protein, you're really only assimilating about 70 calories of that. That's a lot of calories, whereas carbs are in the 6 to 7% range, somewhere in there, and fats are 2%.
So it'd be like 94 calories and like 98 calories for carbs and fats.
Correct.
It's
Exactly.
like drinking ice water.
Right.
Yeah.
So bottom line is that if you can control, and many people can, they're able to say, hey, I'm going to weigh my foods or whatever, and it would be just as good from a weight loss standpoint. There's no benefit to the keto if you can control your calories and you can take in sufficient protein. So other than that, I would say that all diets are viable provided they cut calories and have sufficient protein. And then the carb to fat ratio has very little, if any, benefits. There might be certain individual aspects where that might come into play. That's still somewhat equivocal as far as everything I've seen. Obviously, fiber would be another thing that would go into that as well, where ketogenic diets have no fiber. High fiber diets, your body doesn't absorb all of the fiber. It basically will go right straight to your colon and be excreted. So bottom line is that you should pick a diet that is consistent with your lifestyle, that you can stick with, and don't worry about ketosis as far as it having any type of superpowers.
Too much sense. Right, this makes too much sense.
Yeah, I think the issue is that all these people are talking amongst, or they're having a conversation, but they're talking about something different. So someone like you just even broke down in all of that obviously it depends is an answer that people don't want to hear, but they'll make blanket statement, keto, yeah. Keto for what, for whom, and why? Yeah. Where if you already mentioned, maybe you're trying to powerlift, maybe you're trying to be a sprinter, maybe you're playing basketball or hockey, probably not. Yeah. Even if you have these magical genetics from the Mediterranean that says only fish or whatever people talk about.
Tilapia.
Yeah. And people say keto and they say it's healthy and they say sugar is bad, but what is the application? And if maybe we're talking about, okay, the average American that doesn't move, that is overweight, that sits at a desk all day, then sits on a couch all day, is that maybe a time you'd start to apply some of that? Like maybe they need a little bit less carbohydrate because their performance is lower, or you're still just worried about calories?
Yeah, I mean, so they've done control. This now, when we talk about this, I'm talking strictly, this is important, about body composition. So
right, that's I guess the conversation, right?
So when we talk about fat loss, they've done controlled metabolic ward studies where they have taken groups of people and they fed them. A metabolic ward study, for those who don't know, is you basically put people in a hospital.
Yeah, feed them.
And you feed them and you control their activity. They're in like a Skinner box for a rat where you don't let them do anything other than what you want them to do. So you know exactly how much energy they're expending. You can really control everything about them. And there was actually a slight benefit to the lower fat diet compared to lower carb.
Yeah.
I don't really think that means much in the overall context, but that is not from a health standpoint. So could there be health benefits? Possibly. And that is, again, outside of my research interest. I've looked at some of the research.
So the D'Agostino's getting really after it with
cancer. I know he's done some work.
Mitochondria, even Alzheimer's.
I don't dispute that. First of all, he's certainly much more versed in that literature than I am, so I wouldn't go toe-to-toe on that. I don't know enough. It's outside of my scope of interest, and I don't dispute that there might be.
Right.
From what I've seen, I certainly don't think that there's anything conclusive.
Right.
But I wouldn't discount that there might be, and I would probably say that there very well might be from an individual standpoint, that some people genetically might have better health benefits on one person versus another.
The same with like autoimmune disease or something. Maybe that's
we know epilepsy. It's very well documented.
That's where it kind of started, right?
Yeah. Back in the 1800s. It was used for epilepsy.
I guess that's what I'm talking about. Where these conversations that it's healthy. Well, it's healthy if you have epilepsy. It's healthy maybe if you have some early onset Alzheimer's or something, like you said. Like you don't know yet.
Just want to get shredded.
The point is that they just say healthy.
And I'll throw another one out there. It could be unhealthy for people that are prone to hypercholesterolemia.
Sure.
Where the saturated fats could be oxidized. Again,
who knows?
That is somewhere outside of my scope of certainly of research. It's not outside of my scope of interest because I like to read about that when possible. But I've not immersed. There's a limit to how much literature you can immerse yourself in.
I was going to say, and I think that just shows a clear difference from someone that really does care about the research and knowledge, and then maybe someone that then becomes a guru, where I think all too often people want to hear an easy answer. It's X. Like
you just want to buy in.
Yeah, just do this. Answers are far more complicated than people like to think. We just asked you about keto. You gave a very well-informed answer, and there's a lot of nuance to that. But what people want to hear, it's like, what is, you said the insulin fairy. They want to hear, what's the big bad wolf that I need to eliminate? It applies to lifting. It applies to a lot of areas of like, what's causing the issue is this one big thing.
It's my gluteus medius maximus decimus. I better stretch it.
Rather than it's a multifaceted situation going on.
And here's what I would say. I think this is an important point. So we can look like mechanistically, we can pretty much say, I don't want to say for sure, but very close to for sure, because research never gives a 100% proof, but it gives very strong, compelling evidence. And there's very strong, compelling evidence that insulin is not the driver of obesity per se.
Yeah.
That is, I think, extremely well documented. What we can't say, beyond that, the answer to almost any applied question is it depends.
Yeah.
So what we can't say is that for this individual, this diet wouldn't be better hypothetically than this diet.
Yeah.
And I'll also go back to my first comment, though, that even if it's better, you can say, you know what, this would be better for this person with diabetes, this particular person. If that person still is not going to stick to that diet,
Right.
then it means nothing, and then you need to reorganize your strategy. And
What
say that we
what
need to-
do you think it's just a trend then? Like, why do you think it grew to popularity? I know you mentioned
it came out
adherence.
of-
easy.
Do you think
it
it's
came out
just
of nowhere,
because
yeah.
people are like, oh, I can eat bacon and ground beef
Bacon
all
is
day?
awesome.
Cool. You think that's why?
There's a couple things. Number one, it's been packaged very well by certain
marketers or whatever. Yeah.
who've done a really good job at promoting the insulin fairy hypothesis and getting people to believe that.
Yeah.
Using this, to me, is one of my real hobby horses, where you use it's kind of bastardizing science.
Yeah.
It's pseudoscience. It's cherry picking science and data to support a given theory without presenting the whole facts.
Or even reading the other side. You just
think-
read what you want.
Yeah, or they. I think a lot of these
Some of
people
those,
have
what you're
read
saying,
the other
yeah.
side. They
That's
know.
it,
They've been
Because
debated by
that's
people
intellectually dishonest because they are aware. Are you
Correct.
thinking about someone with the name like Fred or something or whatever?
That could be one of them, and,
Oh,
and another
interesting.
one might be Tau, something like that.
Something, yeah, just some
something
people.
in that.
Okay.
So, and again, I think that is really a real issue, is that if you want to promote something, and like I just said, say, hey, this might be a beneficial thing for some people, that's fine.
Yeah.
When you're marketing it and kind of slickly doing it,
Yeah.
and then promoting it as the way to do something, that's my other issue, is because that's clearly been shown not to be the case.
Yeah, it's intellectually dishonest, as you said.
Correct.
Brad, I was going to say, and that is why you'll never see a New York Times bestseller with someone that's truly, I don't want to legitimate, just because all your answers, like I'll ask Alan a question,
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question, and I'll ask Eric Helms a question, and I'll be like, something like, so is keto bad, bro? And then like basically, a lot of times it depends. And
Or
people
need more details.
Yeah, and people want a black and white answer. It's like carbs are bad, you know, like they want to say like, or like 3/10. Like they just want to be told. I feel all too often, and it sucks because basically what I feel a lot of what you do and all those other knowledge bros, as I call them, is that you enable people with knowledge to take control of themselves and what they're doing. You basically give them the template. You explain the way things are and then how to implement it, rather than being dogmatic and saying, well, all right, here, da-da-da, here are the, like, you give
not a
good
prescription.
general guidelines, but you also, there's a lot of detail, there's a lot of nuance to what you're saying, you know?
Yeah, and that's basically anything in an applied science, such as exercise and nutrition, is going to be nuanced. And the answer to virtually all questions would be, it depends.
Yeah. And I think your openness to, that's another thing, is that all too often you'll see someone get into a camp. So not to, trash anything, but like, let's say like paleo or a lot of different types, either nutrition
or even heavy reps,
or
squat every day, whatever.
Yeah,
There's a million
or a squat where
there's a
people
million.
become dogmatic, where that's their thing. And because it's their identity, it becomes their identity, they're not going to change. You could give them compelling evidence that's contrary to what they're talking about, but they just won't change because now they're a guru. Now they're, they have their identity.
People are wired different. Some people want to be part of a team and they want to be part of this and they want to be that. And then other people want the truth or they want to optimize. And that's how I got in all this. I wanted to get better and do the best I can and not waste my time.
Yeah, and what kind of irks me too is that there's a sect of paleo
Warriors.
Advocates, warriors. Who basically it's not enough to say paleo is an option. It has to be the best option for. It's the best thing for sports. It's the best thing for athletes. It's it's the best thing for the average couch potato. It's the best thing for diabetes, for cancer, and again, it's just not consistent with. It's outside of what we actually know through controlled research, and that is. That's where I start saying, you know what, I need to make my stand and say that we need to make the public aware of this. And unfortunately, like Omar had mentioned, the New York Times bestsellers come from people who are making bold claims. Yeah. And we talked about earlier about how the internet has allowed us to reach certain people. Yeah. But the amount of people we can reach through that is going to be less than
the people
that they are. Yeah. They are distorting.
We call kind of the headline generation now, where it's first the headline that captures someone, which is like, whatever, let's make up a book title. Carbs are the devil, right? Like, let's just say that's like a book, like that's way sexier than anything else that you could put out that actually is true.
Moderation is really cool.
Yeah,
that's
right?
not selling.
And so you have first the headline generation, and then you fill it up a little bit. You have someone talk that sounds like it. There's also, when we talk about optics and marketing and people, it's also how charismatic the person is. Just because someone is charismatic, they're able to talk, they have the gift of gab, doesn't mean what they're saying is right. Same idea with the headline. You know, you have a random, you just have, it's almost, to me, it reminds you of movies, not to the same extent, but Rotten Tomatoes is a good example where I find that's a terrible way of judging, just because Rotten Tomatoes, what most people aren't aware, they'll say, oh, it's 100% fresh. But what Rotten Tomatoes does is a critic either basically gives a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And to get a thumbs up, the requirement is a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. So if you thought the movie was pretty good, they'll give it a thumbs up.
Or there's money exchange
Right?
going on, which is the same thing with New York Times with these publishers or this or that, or who has the connections to get on Oprah's show or Dr. Oz show. Well, maybe it's this keto guy because he grew up with
I
so-and-so
heard
or paid
blueberries are the
so-and-so.
answer. But I was just going to say about Rotten Tomatoes, you can have an average rating of 6 out of 10 by critics, but still have a 100% fresh rating. And so even when it comes to marketing, you know, movies will now use that. And I think that's why Rotten Tomatoes is more popular than something like a Metacritic, which gives an actual score rather than a thumbs up or down. A studio could be like 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, certified fresh. What does that even mean? And so they use basically faulty statistics to try and promote further things that might be stinkers.
And look, I don't want to just relegate this to keto because, first of all, the low-fat crowd did pretty much the exact same thing. They demonized the entire nutrients. So they just cut out, and people were munching on Snackwell cookies and getting fatter because, again, they're eating more calories. But, I mean, now we have intermittent fasting, which is another big thing where people are promoting this as like the key. One of my neighbors, I walk my dog, and one of my neighbors starts walking his dog with me and starts, what do you think intermittent fasting? And I was like, again, it's a option. It's a viable option, but it's not the option. It's not the only option. And there's nothing magical, again, about it. They can come up with these mechanisms, bro. The non-eating fairy.
Yeah, they're not, get that much more shredded, bro.
I've been eating lettuce and ice for a while. It's my new diet, my new book. You guys can check it out.
I was going to say, this is unfortunate because I've currently been fasting. You've heard 16 and 8. You've heard 20 and 4. I've been fasting 48 hours now because I heard if 16 is good and 20 is better, then 48 has to be even more up. I'm thinking about taking it, Brad, all the way to 2 weeks.
I'm coming out with the 1 month, man.
Oh, the 1 month. Whoa. Yeah. You want to get shredded, guys.
Who would want to just fast 2 weeks when you can fast
a month? Yeah.
Get shredded.
It reminds me of the which I love.
Something about
you've seen the marketing from way back in the day to now. I'm going to ask you, do you think it's better or worse? Like, basically, do you think the industry is more or less honest? Because I was going to say, it reminds me of 5 minute. It was pretty bad back then, too. Yeah, right, because it reminds me of 5-minute apps. There's like 8-minute apps. It's like, well, there's 7-minute apps. You know, it's like the war. Who got the cheesiest headline?
Is it worse? I think that the internet, certainly, I mean, the online factor, the SEOs type stuff that you talked about earlier. But I mean, it was pretty bad before. We had the Eat Right for Your Type goes back where that was kind of, I think, before the internet or certainly around that. And that was one of the most ridiculous diets ever.
What about
a blood type diet?
Yeah.
What about Eat Right for Your astrological sign? Is that, no? Because I'm Aquarius.
I'm a Cancer. I only eat crab.
That could work.
Brad's like,
that could work to sell a lot of copies.
What's your zodiac sign diet?
Yeah. But Brad, I was going to say, so we've been, we're critical. So I think before we go on, I should say, when you love something, when you're passionate about an industry, you love to lift. Like you still, it's not like you're just doing research. I see the photos of you, Brad, with the stringer. You're a bodybuilder through and through, putting in the work. When you're passionate about something, same idea with us. We talked about music. I think when you do have that passion, you do want to call out some of the BS that you see because you want it to be better, right? And that's what it doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of love instead.
You want to, to me, my job now is as an educator, of my career has evolved, where I think my niche in life is as an educator to help people sift through bullshit, basically, and not fall prey to guru marketing claims. And as long as they can make an educated decision, then they make their own choices. I never tell someone what they should do. I give them the facts and basically say, hey, look, here's what we know through science. You make your own choice.
Yeah. And a lot of times I think people want to be told what to do instead, which is the problem. And I was going to say, too, to add to that, Brad, we've also said, like the New York Times bestseller or these guys making all this money. I think if you stay true to yourself, you can also do just fine, perfectly fine. Like we're not trying to paint this picture like, oh, it's us against them. Like, oh man, like we got, it's like,
right.
like you've had like how many books published now?
12.
Yeah, you've had 12 books published. You've had how many research papers?
Going on 150.
150 research papers. You got your PhD. You're teaching. You're a professor too. Like you did it your way.
Yeah, and look, I have nothing against. First of all, I have nothing against people making money as long as they're doing it above board. They're not trying to make something into something it's not. And I will also say there's a lot of people that are keto advocates that I have a lot of respect for that I think are doing it right, and they don't go off the deep end, and they're very balanced in terms of discussing what the evidence is, and not saying that it's for everyone. It's the people that are using it from a monetary standpoint. That's where I start to have real issues.
Just being dishonest. Let me ask you this, Brad. What are you excited for in the future? Like, what kind of are you passionate about now? Like anything within the industry, outside of the industry, musically? When you said we said Chick Corea, because I know like he played him in an electric band. I'm a big fan of that. Their first album, Light Years.
Clark.
Yeah. I was gonna say they played the Blue Note. What excites you now? Like, what are you interested in the future?
In fitness, music,
and beyond, all of it.
So right now I'm consulting with the New Jersey Devils hockey team, which
very cool.
Wait, when did you announce that on Facebook?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's been ongoing.
It's almost a year now.
Okay,
very cool.
And, with them, I know hockey's big in
you want
Canadians.
Brad? The only thing that makes me two things that I'm not really Canadian about myself. One, I don't like Tim Hortons. Two, I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but everything at the cold weather, everything else, like I'm in.
Were you a hockey fan growing up?
So I was.
This is a little
interesting.
surreal.
I was a big Ranger fan.
Ooh,
the Rangers and the Devils were kind of like oil and vinegar. But now I bleed Devils red.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I see you representing.
Cool. Hey, look, if the Devils are out, I'd root for the Rangers. But you get to know the guys and you want them to succeed.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of it's fun to be a part of the organization, and it's a great organization, and the players are just awesome.
That's cool.
And it's been real fun, and I got a lot of the games now. And anyway, so that's a fun part of my life that I'm enjoying. But yeah, just the other thing that I'm really jacked about is exploring more in research. And we're doing, right now I have over 30, I think maybe close to 40 even studies that are in review.
That's insane.
So one of the things that I've now done is I've developed a network of collaborators. So we all collaborate together, and I basically can help, especially a lot of overseas places, Brazil, Spain. I'm collaborating a lot, Croatia, and this really gives me, because there's a limit to what I can do
by yourself,
and it gives me a foray to be able to really put out a lot of really cool research that is furthering the field, that's giving us the evidence that we talked about to make more educated decisions as to what the best lifting strategies are. And realize, too, a lot of this is on somewhat of a shoestring, that I don't get the big NIH grants because the government is not interested in putting an extra inch on the young jack guys'
biceps. Yeah.
So basically we're doing this with smoke and mirrors to get as far as the monetary aspect. And it's just been very exciting to me, and we just have some really cool studies that are coming out that I think are going to excite a lot of people.
Well, Brad, I just want to say thank you, because we know you're incredibly busy, for making the time to be on this podcast.
Always, man.
You're someone that we look up to, and you do show for us, like we're aspiring, we're in the fitness industry, now we're also doing this podcast, that you can do it, most importantly, your way and by your own rules and your own standards.
So I've always said you are the favorite podcast. The Omar Isuf podcast is my favorite podcast.
Wow.
You're kind of like the Vince McMahon of science. Of science.
So Ellis is a huge wrestling fan. He's down with it, like huge.
You make science fun, and that's great.
Try, my man.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm all over the internet. I have a website called lookgreatnaked.com, as Omar said. But I'm on Facebook. I do a ton of stuff on Facebook, Instagram. I'm finding my way, but getting more of an understanding how to work that medium, and Twitter too. So they could just Google me on any of those and find me.
Pornhub. Awesome. Dr. Brad Longschlong. I've heard a rumor. I don't know.
That's the rumor. I appreciate you guys for listening. Give us a rating and review. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever the heck you're listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.